Hey guys, this is Comic & O, episode 197, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. So we go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. So let's get started with number 24. So I had a good amount of comics this week. Also want to give you guys a little update that next week I will not have Comic & O episode, but the week after I'll be back and doing my reviews again. But let's get started. So number 24 for me this week was Supergirl issue 10. A book that's just been really disappointing for me overall. I don't like the artwork. It's dull and the shapes of everyone's faces are kind of weird, so I don't love the artwork, and also the story's just kind of boring. Even the Phantom Zone aspect of it is boring to me. The only thing I really liked about it was some of the dialogue between Batgirl and Supergirl was fun, like Batgirl being able to reiterate Kryptonian I thought was interesting, in that even without her belt she's able to fight crime and kind of outsmart the villains, so I thought that was cool. Supergirl's friend is kind of dull, I feel, but yeah, overall I gave this 2 stars. I don't think, not even Batgirl and Supergirl's relationship, which again is only a little glimmer of the issue, can save this one. So Supergirl is still on the bottom of the pile, sadly. So I gave that 2 stars, and that is number 24. Now moving on to number 23, which is Secret Empire issue 4. Now this is just an issue that wasn't for me. I still feel like the storyline's not progressing as much as I wanted to. The artwork wasn't as solid as the Sorrentino artwork we've been getting for the past 2 issues. But if you like Hank Pym, I think you'll enjoy this. There's a nice little scene between Hank and Scott. And supposedly in Sam Wilson they mentioned Cassie, so that was nice where she's been at. So if you're wondering why Scott's fighting without Cassie, you know why. Nick Spencer wrote all those titles, so it makes sense that they would reference Cassie, so I was happy about that. But anyways, yeah, it was an okay issue. I just would like to see the story progress a little bit faster than it has been, but if you're a big Ultron fan, big Hank Pym fan, I think you're going to get a little bit more appreciation of this issue than I did. So Secret Empire issue 4 gets 2.5 stars, and that is number 23. Moving on to 22, which I don't think everyone's going to agree with, but I thought was a little messy, and that was Dark Days, The Forge, issue 1. So this book, you know, has a lot of fan service in the book of, you know, calling out names like The Outsiders, Mr. Terrific, who else did they call out? Obviously the ending with, spoiler alert, the Joker, which definitely was the most interesting aspect of the issue. But I feel like it was kind of all over the place. They're trying to fit too many elements in the book, and I didn't get a cohesive story as much as I wanted to. Some of the artwork I wasn't a huge fan of, like John Romita Jr.'s artwork, which I've never been a big fan of. So, yeah, overall I gave this 2.5 stars. Definitely see the importance of the book, but it didn't really do it for me. But, of course, I'll be picking up more to see where it goes. Now moving on to number 21, which has been a book that's been lower on the list lately, and that is Action Comics issue 981. So this issue kind of feels like a Silver Age ending, where Superman is fighting his arch nemesis, multiple arch nemesis, Cyborg, Superman, Zod, and he's fighting them, and then he ends up becoming blind in the end of the issue. I'm like, that feels like very Silver Age Superman. It was kind of a weird cliffhanger. But overall, I still feel like this is a bit too fan service heavy, where it's like, here's all these awesome Superman villains with these big names, put it all in one issue. And I'm just not getting the character moments that I want with this book, even though they're trying. You know, they mention Martha, they mention Lois and John and all that, but it's just not enough yet for this storyline. So Action Comics issue 981 gets 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 20, which is Misfit City, issue 2, which was really high for issue 1, but issue 2 kind of slows things down. I feel like it didn't focus as much on the characters as issue 1 did, and now they're just like, you know, looking at the map and trying to figure things out. So it is a 3-star book, not bad, but also a little bit forgettable, this issue, compared to the first issue, which I thought was better. Moving on to number 19, which is the end of our story arc for Copperhead. So Copperhead issue 14 is going to be taking a little break, I think, until October, just like Paper Girls. And it's an okay issue. You get some elements of the mystery of who killed this person, and by the end, we have our main character come face to face with, I guess, the father of her child. So we'll see how that ends up going. So that was an interesting cliffhanger. But everything else was kind of underwhelming for me. So hopefully the storyline picks up with the next arc. So Copperhead issue 14 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 18, which is the penultimate issue of a series I've been enjoying for the most part, and that's Tomboy issue 11, which really doesn't pick up until the end of the issue because I feel like it focuses so much on mythology and where these creatures have come from, and there's so many characters they try to fit into this issue. But by the end, when it's about the family, when it's about the grandfather, the father, and Addie, that is when things get tense, and you see that they're definitely doing some big stuff with this book, with killing in this issue. They leave the audience on a good cliffhanger. So I gave it 3 stars. I like the cliffhanger, but to get to that point, I think there could have been some more interesting dialogue about the mythology and the other characters. Moving on to number 17, which is actually higher than usual, and that is Detective Comics issue 958, which I thought was a slight improvement from what we've been getting. I liked that we get some small moments between Clayface and Cassandra, where Cassandra's learning to act, to really learn how to speak, which I thought was really cool. We have Luke and Kate just like going to a basketball game and hanging out. What other scenes did I really like? Those are the 2 big ones I enjoyed. And they're small scenes. That's why it's not as high as I want it to be, because there's still some dialogue problems with this book where I'm like, alright, get to the point. The dialogue is kind of boring, but when you do have those moments where the family's just interacting with each other, that is definitely the best part of the issue. And also the ending, where we get to see the reintroduction of Zatanna in DC Rebirth. So, really looking forward to seeing what they end up doing with her character. I thought that was a cool ending. So Detective Comics issue 958 gets 3 stars. Still not as high as I want it to be, but it's getting slightly better. Alright, moving on to number 16, which is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, issue 11, where I think it's interesting we get to see our new Oracle has bipolar disorder, and I liked how the team finds out. I think they could have explained that character's motives a little bit better in the issue, or even maybe have the reveal first and then explain things, because at first I was like, oh, you know, this character, I don't get his motives, but then when you find out that he has the bipolar disorder, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and I liked how the team reacted to that. So I think for the future I'm looking forward to the story, but I think execution could have been a little bit better in this issue in particular. So this Batgirl in the Birds of Prey issue 11 gets 3 stars, and that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is, and one of them drops. Alright, which is X-Men Blue, issue 5, which is kind of a slower issue. It's just like everyone finding out, alright, these aren't the ultimate character, well, these aren't the characters we know. These aren't the people we know. They're from another universe. And you get little hints of how these characters have survived. Jimmy teams up with the team and says, cool, I'm going to stick with you guys. And that's pretty much it. You know, it's kind of a slow issue. I think the artwork has improved with the issue, but it's, I don't want to say filler-ish because you get information you need, but not enough information for the issue to kind of be fully worth it. So X-Men Blue issue 5 gets 3 stars. Alright, moving on to number, I believe we're up to 14. Yes, we are. Number 14, which is Birthright, issue 25. Which still I'm not too keen on the mythology aspect. I think sometimes it's very bogged down, the mythology, where I'm like, alright, I get it. Let's get back to the family and the characters. But that's where it shines here. We get to see our Mikey's child born, and really the family working together to help Mikey gain his soul back. And those are the interesting aspects of the issue, and I am looking forward to seeing where the series goes when it returns. So, Birthright issue 25 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 13, which is All New Wolverine issue, what are we up to? Issue 21, which the artwork I think could have been a little bit better. It's kind of a plain art style. Even with the disease, it's just like a red patch. I thought there could have been a bit more detail with the art, but this is a fun issue. We get to see the Wolverine-like characters, you know, Deadpool, Old Man Logan, Dakin, Gabby and, of course, Laura are helping the town and trying to bring the disease onto them so the town is, survives. And Laura does a little bit too much in the end. Where will she survive? Of course she'll survive, but we have to see how she does so. So it was a fun issue. I like the interactions between the Wolverine characters or, the Weapon X characters. So I liked it. It was a fun issue for an arc that wasn't, I think, the strongest for Wolverine. So I gave this issue 3.5 stars. Moving on to we're up to number 12, which I think is the best issue so far of the series, and that is Rose issue 3. We're finally getting into what makes Rose a warrior, what makes her this hero of the story. And we learn why her hair is white, and I like that aspect. I do want to learn a little bit more about the connection with her cat, or her, I think it actually is called Cat here. So I want to learn more about that because it's kind of just thrown at you. It's like, alright, so I guess this is a mythological creature that's her partner for some reason. So there's aspects like that where the mythology, I want to see a bit more of it and understand the mythology of the series. But I like that Rose really has a voice here, and you see that she's becoming a hero, and I like that. That was cool. And the artwork is gorgeous for this book. Really clean, and like I said, just love the artwork. So overall, Rose issue 3 gets 3.5 stars. Like I said, an improvement of what we've been seeing from the series. Alright, so moving on to number 11, which is another series that's been improving, and that is Superwoman issue 11. I like this issue. If you enjoy Steel, I think you're going to like this a lot, where we get to see Steel's nephew was kidnapped by this monster a long time ago. It's related to his father. Now, all these years later, Lana wants to use her power to get to this monster, and that's pretty much the whole storyline. But it's cool how they're interweaving Lana's storyline with Steel's storyline, and Lana questioning, am I enough at this point to save, my family, pretty much. So, I enjoyed it, and I'm really liking the direction of where Superwoman's going. So, I gave Superwoman issue 11 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 10. A series I was pretty surprised by. I'll definitely get the next issue. And that is Normandy Gold, issue 1 from Titan, which is this detective storyline where we learn this, this woman, she had a hard childhood and she ran away pretty much, and now she's a sheriff of this town. And she finds out that her sister, ended up on the wrong side of the tracks, and she has to figure out where her sister ended up. She gets a phone call from her, and she needs to learn what happened to her. And that's kind of the whole storyline, and she has to go undercover to figure out what happened to her sister. So it's interesting storylines, a solid artwork, and a good start. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. If you like detective stories, I say try this one out. Moving on to number 9, which is Regression issue 2, a book I've been really enjoying. Another solid issue for this book, where we get to see our main character still dealing with these bugs and the mystery of what's going on with his mind, and then even Molly, his best friend, trying to help him out, but there's this moment where he's like, no, go away, it's all your fault. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with Molly, but we see our main characters going further down the rabbit hole, and by the end meets up with a detective. So is he gonna get in trouble for these murders? So really interesting stuff. I love the artwork, this clean, crisp artwork, and also the story is just really intriguing in this world that they're building between Molly as a character and our main character. So Regression issue 2 gets 4 stars from me. Alright, moving on to number 8, I believe. Number 8, which is definitely higher than this book has been, and that is Titans issue 12, because finally it focuses on the full team and not just Wally. And I like the way they do it, where it's Lilith who goes to see Simon and is pretty much telling her whole story of what's happening to the team, and by the end of the issue she learns that there's someone that's going to betray the team within the team. So we know it's not Lilith for the most part. Maybe it is Lilith, but now she has to figure this out. And there's romance going on with the team, which feels very old school Titans, where you see Wally and Donna hooking up. You have Lilith and and Aqualad hooking up also. So we get to see some romance, some tension, and this is what I want from Titans. So overall, I gave Titans issue 12 4 stars. Definitely a good start for this new arc, focusing on the full team of the Titans. Alright, moving on to number 7, a book I've been really enjoying, and that is World Reader, issue 3 by Aftershock. I just love the dialogue here of our main character always feeling different because of these powers. You really learn her history, that she lost her husband or, you know, boyfriend, and she wants to know where he's been. She pulled the plug because she thought, oh, I'm going to see him. This is my power, and she doesn't. My prediction is because her husband died without really having anything that he was needed to go back to, because all these other characters are like, oh, I have unfinished business. I don't think her husband slash boyfriend had any unfinished business, so that is the reason why she's not seeing him, and I think that's something we're gonna see in the future. We also get to see some more romance happening between that other scientist slash astronaut character that goes to help out our main character with her abilities, because now she's not fully alone, which is really what this book is about. Is like, I feel alone, you know, these powers always you know, separate me. So really interesting stuff. I love the coloring, love the narration. So World Reader issue 3 gets 4 stars for me. Moving on to number 6, which is The Defenders, issue 1. I thought this was a solid start to the book. I liked how they introduced all the characters of the team. We got Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica. And we have Diamondback back. So Diamondback is back. And he wants to go get Luke, so he's trying to harm his friends. And then Jessica and Iron Fist and Daredevil decide, hey, let's go help out Luke. Let's become a team. And Dave Marquez's artwork is gorgeous for this book. I love the little logos that pop up throughout the book. It's a solid start so far. I liked it. So Defenders issue 1 gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 5. So we're in the top 5 now. And number 5 is Miss Marvel issue 19. A really solid start for this new arc, which is Miss Marvel celebrating a holiday, and you know, she has all her family over, and she even has Zoe over because she likes to bring one white friend to the gathering. So Zoe's there, and so we see that Jersey City is kind of closing off stuff for some reason. We find out it's one of Kamala's old villains, which was from the Civil War II, which I guessed, and she's back and wanting to go up against Miss Marvel. And now you see people rounding up people with abilities. And by the end, because Kamala's brother had the abilities for that second in Civil War II, he gets kidnapped. So that's the end of the issue. And I liked it. I thought it was a really solid issue. There's a lot going on, a lot of good stuff going on here, a lot of interesting character moments. I love that Zoe moment where we find out she was an immigrant because I forget which character. I think it was Kamala's brother-in-law saying, oh, you know, they've come to let me see if I can get the exact line, actually. I think it's towards the end. Let's see. Yeah, they just got, oh, he says, there were 2 weird acting New World Order type kind agents outside looking for illegal, and it's people with powers that haven't registered, which is kind of like, you know, the original Civil War. And then we have Zoe's like, oh my god, they found out, you know, I'm a legal immigrant because she's from France and never got the paperwork. So I thought that was a really fun scene. So yeah, this is a lot of interesting story going on here with powers and secret identities, and bringing the supporting cast and family involved once again is always when Miss Marvel's on top. So Miss Marvel issue 19 gets a solid 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the storyline goes. I love the world that Miss Marvel has built for itself. Alright, moving on to number 4, which is The Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows, issue 8. Another solid book for this series, and I love how we focus on Mary Jane, where she feels bad that she's draining her husband of his powers, so she ends up borrowing this biotech, which is the Venom symbiote, and from Liz Allen, and she's using it, and you can see the Venom's kind of taking over her, and I love the kind of stages we see with throughout the issue of MJ being exhausted, falling asleep, and then waking up like on the bottom of a bridge. So you see that the venom is really taking over, but then by the end it's like her being really hungry and like being really perky in the morning, and you see that the venom is in her eyes. So how much control will the venom take over for MJ, and will she keep doing this to be a superhero? So a lot of interesting stuff here. My only nitpick is that I don't really understand if the venom exists in this world before, because obviously Eddie Brock has been a big villain for Spider-Man for a very long time. So does Eddie Brock exist in this world, or is this the first time MJ's seeing the venom? Because there is this scene where she has a dream where she says venom in it. So it's like, where did she get that name from? Liz has been calling it this biotechnology. So that's the only weird thing, is this continuity issue. But overall, I think this is a really cool character-driven storyline for MJ. So I give this one 4 stars, and that is number 4. Now moving on to number 3, which is Betty and Veronica, issue 3, which is sadly the last issue of this series. So I guess it was a mini-series. But I really enjoyed this issue because it's Betty and Veronica going all at it. You got Betty cursing at her. They're legit fighting each other physically. And I love the moments where it takes 3 men to hold down Betty in this book. And everyone's like, why haven't you joined the football team, Betty? And she's just like trying to get Veronica. But by the end of the issue, you find out it was all a scheme that Veronica and Betty came up with. That way, Veronica's dad gave up on making this coffee shop at Pop. So it was all their idea, and the interaction between them in the end is golden, because you see Veronica teaching Betty how to curse, and Betty can't do it pretty much, and it's so fun. But what I love about it is that I feel like with Betty and Veronica, a lot of times you get their frenemy aspect, you don't really get the friends aspect of Betty and Veronica. But here, you see kind of both happening, and it's more the friendship overweighing that frenemy aspect of, oh, let's get Archie, and I love that. And there's this cute little scene in the end, let me see, in the end of the issue where they're just like holding hands and hanging out, and they're like, you're my best friend in the whole world, Ronnie. And they said, ditto, darling, ditto. And I was like, oh, that was a really cute scene. So, yeah, they are the best of friends, and I think this issue kind of explains their friendship very well. So, Betty and Veronica, issue 3 gets 4.5 stars. The only nitpick I had was the tint that they have over the artwork. I mean, Adam Hughes' artwork is gorgeous, but I don't really like this kind of white tint over it. It was a little distracting, but overall, great issue. So Betty and Veronica, issue 3 gets 4.5 stars. Moving on to number 2, which is this, I believe, the second to last issue of Greg Rucka's run, and that is Wonder Woman, issue 24, which is a really good ending to Veronica Kell's storyline, where she's dealing with her daughter being gone, and still controlling Cheetah, and Cheetah wants to destroy Kell and kill her, and it's Wonder Woman just hugging her and saying, no, you don't want to do this. And it's such a great moment between Cheetah and Wonder Woman in this issue, that I've loved what Rucka's been doing with their relationship with this series, and just showing that Veronica Kell is this really interesting villain, because you see her motives, you can see how she got here, but she's still a villain. And you see that between the interactions between Cheetah and Veronica. Very interesting story, gorgeous artwork. So I give Wonder Woman issue 24 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Hulk, issue 7. A book I've been really enjoying, and I think this issue really improved from some nitpicks I had from the first story arc. I think this artwork is a little bit more detailed, and also I like the villain arc. I like that it's connected to the cooking show that Jen's been watching. And it's a little bit more personal, because this chef that she loves is turning into like this Hulk-like creature, so it connects to, you know, Jen's connection to the Hulk right now. But I also like her dealing with her trauma, and I love the dialogue by Mariko Tamaki, where it's so subtle that she's not accepting her trauma, and not accepting that she has trauma, really. Where she's like, doesn't feel like she's like those people in her peer group. She's like, oh, you know, I don't get it, you know, why they're acting this way. And I love that line where she says, one of the peer group person comes up and says, oh, have you had a good cry? And Jen's like, who asks that to somebody? Have I had a good cry? And you realize it's because Jen has not cried at all since these events have happened to her. So I love this psychological narrative that's going on throughout the book. And in the first way for Jen to kind of accept her trauma, accept her life now, is her conversation between Hellcat here, because she's been pushing Hellcat away for this whole entire series so far. Now she's kind of accepting to talk to her and kind of accept this new version of Hulk she has. So overall, really enjoyed this issue. I gave it 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys later. Bye.